All right, well, first things I just want to start off by saying, how many of you guys have ever felt stressed and you really you just felt stuck?
We're students.
We're
We're on
on
planet
for
Earth
studying.
with Trump as our president. Come
There
on.
you go. And how do you guys cope with that? How do you guys try to get out of that feeling?
I play games with my friends.
Games. For me, I like going hiking. I love games, but it's just, to me, going out in nature, going to these, I'll call it like unexplored areas. I like just going off the beaten path. My pitch to you guys is I want to create basically a familiar yet different type of hike in VR. A way to escape, a way to kind of go out in nature, but not having to leave your own home, but able to put on the headset and be able to walk around, be able to create just a new world. I was thinking, what if we got a series of different locations and able to put them into basically a giant map? So yet you still have that familiar feeling of being in these places. For example, I wanted to just, so let's say you put on the headset and you automatically start off in the middle of the redwood forest. You're looking up and the sunlight's hitting you and you're just walking around. As you're walking, you hear a waterfall. You head toward it, you see a river, you start following it, and you start hearing animal noises. Monkeys, elephants.
Jumanji.
Yeah, you like, where am I?
Call animal
You head
control.
toward
We're in trouble.
Yeah.
You follow it, and then you end up at the old abandoned zoo in LA.
Nice.
You're looking
That's
around,
a
and it's
cool
like you're
place.
hearing the spirits of the animals that are calling you to it. So as you're going through the enclosures, you're heading up to those where the tigers would be at, through the little stairway in the dark. You end up on top of a mountain, top of a cliff. Probably most likely to kind of resemble. Have any of you guys been to Stony Point Hedge in Chatsworth? No. See, I wish I had visuals. But it's a great place if you want to go rock climbing. Just a little, it's a great area just to hang around about. As you climb to the top, you find out that you're no longer there, but except you're at the tippy point of Vasquez Rocks, over there by Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
And as you turn around, you see a certain cave. It's known as the Jim Morrison Cave, where he would go out and write his own music. You go in there, walk in, and you see the sunset off the beach. So that's what I'm pitching you guys. I want to create a world that it's so familiar yet different, because you walk into different areas and you don't know where you're going. You could explore all of California, all these abandoned places, hiking.
I vote yes.
That's awkward.
I love it.
Yay!
So we have to shoot this all though.
Yeah, well, so what you come down to is so questions. Who's your audience?
My audience are mostly people looking for a way to escape their own reality, escape the stressful environment of school. Just
Sounds like
get away.
everybody.
Yeah.
I like the E for everybody.
Yeah, pretty much. Everyone was interested.
So what skills would you bring to this project?
To be quite honest, I don't know first two things are really much of coding or anything at all. However, I would bring leadership skills. I would bring in my own vision and how I want this project to go. Different locations. I know a bunch of locations around California.
Okay.
We could even expand it out to even out of the country, out of the state.
So
Even be able to make our own.
creator, producer, writer.
Yeah.
So you write the script.
Yes.
That's key. So I think so. Then what's needed then is what you need. Of course, everybody's gonna need a coder.
Yeah.
You need a cinematography, video, right? You need your video production. You need your video editing, sound, and then we need the VRs. Okay. I mean, I think most of those skills are probably there. So we'll for the moment, thank you very much. We'll come back and have everybody come back around on the project if you like the rest. Great job,
Thank you.
Pablo. All right. Nadine, you want to pitch yours next?
I'm not feeling too well, so.
Okay. You sit.
Oh.
Oh, here, I'll give you the chair too.
Higher one? Oh, I
see.
can pull up.
You know, yeah.
I had to take a Benadryl and having
Oh.
allergies
No, no problem at all.
are the
Make
worst.
yourself
So,
comfortable.
anyway, I'm a master gardener, Nadine Cano, and we're trained through UC Davis, the LA, greater LA district. Anyway, I was thinking of a garden, you know, a sort of a similar thing out in nature. And it's supposed to be really healing. A lot of people just don't do it. But I would not try and substitute ever not doing it. You know, like I have a friend that isn't getting out anymore. She's on her last time. And, you know, like if she could do something like, you know, used to work in the garden, go out in the garden. But like, I have like two ideas came up. One is seeing, I know from working in biology for like 30 years, lots of students and even the parents and students our age don't know where the hell vegetables came from. Or I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
no, I'm with you.
Yeah.
and so if you had a virtual thing to go out in the garden and it would focus on a plant and then you could insert a video on
right.
explaining the plant or, you know, now
You mean
like,
like a Brussels sprout? I had no idea they'd grow in stalks.
oh yeah. Well, and strawberries, the strawberries, their seeds are all on the outside,
Right.
which is like totally amazing, you know, and there's like all kinds of amazing things about plants and stuff, and they would probably want to just go visit a lot of, you know,
Yeah.
times and find it. Or you can make it a little more scientific with scientific names and stuff, so like somebody training or something could learn more. But I was also thinking like an, where is it? Theodore Payne Foundation, a native plants. If you went in native plants and then you had an explanation come up, water, you know,
Yeah.
plants that didn't need water and stuff, and you could explain what the plant is, how tall it'll be, what it would be good for to use in your garden or something. That would, like, you know, you could really.
You know what's cool is if you had a component of data visualization along with what's going on
Yeah.
with what Pablo was talking about, because there are definitely a lot of things in nature in those places that you might see, and
Well,
you
could
know
put-
you know how to put all the context around that. I mean,
Yeah,
not
I
to say
have
that's
like
necessarily-
experience with, you know, gardening. I used to lead tours like in Franklin Canyon for nature and stuff. So I have, you know, nature background and stuff too. So,
Tour guide.
you know, and usually the animals usually do weird things when I'm around, which is pretty cool. Like I planned it all. You know? Like, oh, look at that hawk! It just came right by us today. But yeah, nature is really important in understanding it, and especially like with plants, there's a tendency to like get rid of that in education,
Right.
and you know it takes time and stuff. Although there are some community school gardens and stuff, but like now it's not that. You know, it's separated and people don't get to. So somebody could visit and learn stuff about gardening or learn stuff about native plants and how to use them or something.
I think that's awesome.
Yay.
Thank you.
Can we work on multiple projects?
Absolutely, and I think, you know, part of this is about a discussion, right? Of us, you know, coming out. There's, again, no right or wrong answers, no minimum number of projects, and no need to not make the cross-pollinate, right? I mean, we're a small enough group of people. Oh, you did
I got it.
But certainly, I think there's enough folks and enough things where we can all try to help each other and come up with various concepts. So that was good, Nadine. Thank you.
Great.
So one more, Stephanie? No? Not yet?
I have an idea, but I don't really know how to. Okay, I'll do it.
There you go. The other part about this is for you guys to get confident in just coming up and sharing what you need and, you know.
Well, I just thought that it would be cool to create kind of like a virtual reality obstacle course.
Oh my god, that's what I was thinking too.
Oh, really?
That's cool.
Collaborate, yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking, kind of, when I was younger, I would always use, like, what's it called? Like Mario 64
Oh, yeah.
games. And then recently, they made an app for Mario.
Oh.
And it's basically like Mario is constantly running, and you just have to like
Quite
make a
nice.
jump or
Uh-huh.
things like that. And it's the same experience. It's a lot more. It's simplified than when you're actually with a Nintendo. But I think it'll be cool. Maybe if when we're using virtual reality, maybe we don't know how to make a character jump or constantly run because we are going to be in a confined space. But maybe the character is constantly running, and all we have to do is like pick our arms
Yeah.
or grab things like that. So yeah, that's my idea.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
No, because you know how many so what's interesting about what you're talking about is think about how many games are built on the game engine of like Sonic Dash, right? And you're just moving and that, I mean, so that one of the biggest ideas is a game engine has a certain way that things play, right? So you've sort of laid out a mode of play. Characters constantly running and you're going to put things in the way you control it in that path. So it's taking a game engine and now having a concept that you can put on top of it that's your own intellectual property using an engine that would already exist. So I think that's really cool.
So yeah, that's my idea.
Yeah.
So I guess I kind of had two thoughts now that you mentioned Mario. I wanted to add like fun exercising, you know, like exercise gets boring, whatever. So I was thinking like his idea, like, you know, nature is like beautiful and it's like, I love working out in nature and yoga in nature. I don't want to be like inside at the gym or anything. So I was thinking like they could do an obstacle course. So like, you know how people like jump through tires or like do stuff like that. So kind of that thing, and like so that you don't bump into the walls, you know, you could put like maybe tell the game that you have like 5 feet to work with, so you could like just run a little bit maybe and then whatever, so that you can exercise and have fun and enjoy without like really noticing that you're doing it. And then yeah, with like Mario, whatever, like games, I guess it'll be fun too, like jumping through hoops and stuff, and like your body's working without you really thinking about it or getting bored and stuff. So I like that.
No, it's good. And I think you know, one of the things that has been already thought about for virtual reality is skills training, right? Is the idea that the movements that you have in either playing basketball or the rest, if you mimic that and you practice those movements, you can get better, just like the Tai Chi example. So I think that it's extremely viable, and I see a lot of similarities amongst all of the things that are there, but also I see some different tweaks on how that could work. And if you thought about ourselves, as a production studio, right, then the thing we would do would be take all the things that are common, work on those together, and then we would form teams and you would build your own tweaks to what a common engine might look like. So if you think about it, you know, what's a common, because if we only had one coder or a couple of coders, what's some common code that we could all use that then you could branch off on and show different things? Because if you're walking through nature, and you're walking through nature, but it's a very different experience, but very cool, right? We have two experiences around that with very similar dynamics of the actions and a way that things work. It's just a different, you know, outcome. Same thing for how you were thinking about the world of obstacle course and what you were thinking about. I think those are very similar in terms of how they might interact. So what we're talking about right now is modeling, right? So there's between content shooting and a lot of this development is there's modeling, right? So like game model, a play design. What can you do given the different frameworks that we have available? So I think that's awesome. I think what we should do is think about, okay, got 4 pretty decent ideas. We should think about, I'd love you guys to think about, how do we create commonality of experience? How do we, you know, take that, script them out? So think about a little bit as the next step of what's a script of gameplay or the virtual world play that you have. I think you have very close to a script. I think they need to tweak, right? So what does the script look like? Is it going along in nature and identifying things, which could be very much an AR experience, right? You can imagine in AR rather than VR. Here I'm dropping you into a 360 world. Here you're putting on the Microsoft HoloLens. And as I walk through real nature, real stuff is coming up. And maybe I'm learning facts and doing data visualization. The VR concept of that might be the act of gardening itself or something of that nature where you can go into a virtual world and see a bunch of plants that you wouldn't see in the same place. So the one thing about VR is you could put, as you're saying, anything next to anything else because you're creating the world. So you could put things that don't indigenously grow together in an experience, which might be an interesting use of VR rather than AR. But some thoughts to think about. I think for you, if you're thinking about then the movements, what I heard clearly here was there's an idea that you had about movements triggering actions, right? If something is in motion, then what are the movements that you would use to trigger? What would you trigger? What would the, is it points? Is it the number of things, like the Sonic Dash game is all about if you do the right thing, you hit the rings, right? If I'm the right set over, if I do the right thing, I get rings, I get points, something to reinforce the action you want the user to get. And